Adventure on Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio. And I'm very excited about our next guest because not only do they have great music, great message, great attitude, and from way back in the 80s as well. So hits all the points as far as I'm concerned. So let's welcome to the show, Rex from Whitecross. How are you?
Hey, Dean. Thanks for having me on.
Love it. Oh, man. It's definitely good to have you here. And as you just did, I was saying to you when you first came on and you were playing the guitar before we even started, I'm like, man, I just love that you brought your guitar to the interview because that's the way it should be.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's a personal branding thing. I like to have it with me. It's like, I don't know if anybody really cares what I have to say so much, but people like to see the guitar player with his instrument. So, I figure I let the music do the talking.
There you go. I love it. And you know what else I love by you shredding like that? Is there's so many people out there that are probably watching this, listening to this, that have no clue that a Christian type of music would have that kind of shredding.
Dude, we've been playing this music. I've been doing this music since all the way back to 1977.
Wow.
So, so I realized that makes me old enough to be y'all's grandpa and all that.
Except me.
But I'm still here, and there's been a lot of fads have come and gone, a lot of different music styles. I can tell you a story in back around 95. I got dropped from my label. Oh, you guys are playing that old tired 80s metal sound that nobody cares about, nobody likes anymore. And I'm like, what? I spent my whole life, trying to emulate Eddie Van Halen and all the great rock guitar players, and all of a sudden you're no good anymore. And then, then like 10 more years go by. And so, I go back and I play blues and all that stuff in between. I go back to my roots. And then, all of a sudden, in the early 2000s, somebody goes, Rex, where you been, man? We missed your style. Where you been? It's like, well, I don't know. All you industry people, decided to go in a different direction. I'm the same. I'm the same guy. I'm still here. I love that 80s rock, classic rock style. I love that. I love that melodic rock sound. I love all the great bands from that era. And just because we're a Christian band, so what? That just means that we have positive messages. And I've received so many emails and text and social media. People just come on and they send us wonderful messages of how God has made a difference in their life, and our music had a role to play in that. So I'm all about just playing great music and loving people and loving God, and that's what we are.
That's right. And I think people misunderstand music, especially heavy metal music.
Yeah.
And they think it's the exact opposite of the message you're sending. And it's so not true. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a funny story. Okay.
Yeah.
So must have been like, I don't know, 82, 83, somewhere around there. I was at a Slayer show, and the opening band for Slayer, you ready, was Striper.
Right. Yeah.
It was at the Troubadour, and you know, the funny thing about that is people like, what were they thinking putting those two bands together? You know, Tom Araya is a devout Christian. Okay. There's such a misconception of stuff that comes with metal that, you know, the whole thing of, oh, you can't be Christian and be in a metal band, like some people may think, is kind of ridiculous, because just music is music, you know, and
music is music. But you know, if you think about pop music tends to be about the typical everyday issues. You know, boy meets girl, boy wants girl, girl rejects boy, girl loves him, boy. You know, you want what you can't have. You know, so it's all of these love songs. You know, one way or the other way, right?
Yep.
That's the typical pop music scene. And in the metal music, because it's a more extreme form of music. Now, you know, Whitecross I've never really felt comfortable with being like a metal band. You know, we did this thing in El Salvador, and there was, you know, they said, keep it, there's a bunch of gangs here that hate each other. Keep the music fast, hard, and heavy. Like, oh, well, we're more of a melodic band like Doc, and what do we do?
Right.
Well, your heaviest stuff. It's like, well, our heaviest stuff, we're more, to be honest, we're more along the lines of like that Striper kind of sound. Maybe
Right.
Heavy. We're more like a classic Whitesnake, something like that. You know, we're not like heavy metal, but we were considered metal at the time. But anyways, in metal music, tends to run towards very spiritual, and whether it's demonic or whether it's Christian or whether it's something, people tend to talk about, you know, like people tend to get away from like the boy meets girl kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We peel that layer back, and the metal music really gets down to like, what are the brass tacks issues of, you know, of eternity. You know, that's, if you think about, you know, anybody from Slayer to King Diamond to Whitecross to Striper, you know, everybody is somewhere on that. Metallica, you know, the big truths is what is really comes to the foreground in that style of music, right? And that seems to be like a big thing.
Yeah.
So regardless of where any individual artist falls on the spectrum of, you know, towards positive, you know, God and light, or more towards the satanic, you know, on the other end of the scale, or the nihilism, you know, just total destruction of the soul kind of thing. It's like everybody is somewhere on the spectrum, and those are the issues that come out in the lyrics a lot. And you know, so metal is great for being able to express all those kinds of thoughts, as opposed to like the pop music. And pop music is great too, but you know, pop music is Taylor Swift, and you know, you're not going to get a lot of heavy subject matter. Although Taylor Swift, apparently she's been writing a lot of religiously themed lyrics lately, from what I understand, but I wouldn't know because I don't listen to it. So,
and how about that? Because like everybody thinks she's part of Illuminati.
Well, I don't know. Maybe she is. I have no idea. I've never met the lady, and I don't know anything about her. So, we did a show one time. Again, all this stuff, I don't know why I keep bringing up South America, but we've just had some things down there. We did a concert, and Madonna was in town, and she played over at the soccer stadium, and she had all the beautiful people, and we played on the other side of town, and we had all of the leftovers. So we both had a huge, you know, like she had 100,000 people, we had close to 100,000 people at our concert, and you know, so the national media got a hold of that. So they had us on the national media shows, and they were like, you know, the heaven and hell night. It's like, well, this is you guys talking. This is not me. We're just here to play our music, and it's purely coincidence that Madonna happens to be in town
Right.
on the same night. So whatever anybody else does, man, we're just here doing our own thing. mean, I like the music of, I like the classic Whitesnake. I love the Van Halen. You know, I love that whole, the Rat and the Dokken. I love all that 80s kind of stuff with the classy guitar styles, you know, that's in the melodic stuff. And I love all the great singers, Lou Gramm and Paul Rogers and David Coverdale and Ronnie Dio. You know, I love all those guys.
Well, you know what I call it? Musicianship. I think,
Yeah.
you know, it's something that isn't necessarily a requirement in 2024.
Well, I mean, you know, I remember Bobby Dahl from Poison saying, "Hey, man, I didn't get into this to be a musician. I got in it because I want to be famous." Yeah. It's like, you know, people join a rock band because it's a great way to meet chicks. You know, people have all different motivations. I never was into any of that. I just wanted to be a musician, and I loved the guitar. Yeah.
Well, so, and that I can tell by the fact of you having the guitar with you during the interview. It's like one of your appendages. You know
what I always say to my students is, you know, maybe you don't have a singing voice, but everybody has a voice, and you know, whatever I have to say to the world, I can tell you through my guitar. You know, I mean, I can tell you things emotionally through the music that are just very difficult to try to put into words. And so a lot of times it's just a lot easier to let the music do the talking.
You're so right. In the last interview I just did, it actually touched on that, where, you know, the music itself, not the lyrics, but the music itself is what invokes emotion. And, you know, it is speaking to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is why people get so, this is, you know, in cars, people are going to argue all day long. Well, my Ford eats your Chevy for lunch. Oh yeah, my Chevy eats your Ford for lunch. And guitar players get really bent out of shape. Well, I got my Marshall amp. No, I got my Boogie amp. Like, you know, my Les Paul beats your Fender. And people get really, you know, guitar players go back and forth on their gear, and people are so passionate about their music. You know, Rush is the greatest band that ever lived. But, no, Rush sucks. You know, Geddy's too high in his vocals, whatever. You know, people are going to defend their own favorite music. You know, it's a death match, you know, because, and I think the reason is because, as to your point, that it emotionally, it grabs you. And this is why there's room for a wide spectrum of music, is because you know, as many emotions as there are people, there's a song out there that song just, it says exactly the way that I feel. So people latch onto a song, and then or a sound, you know, like you know, somebody latches onto the power or the intensity of a metal song. It's like, man, I just love the way this band does this sound. Whatever it is that connects to you, and then people just, you know, then that band becomes a part of the soundtrack of your life.
Yeah, it's so true. And
that's why people are going to argue to the death about, well, Sammy or Dave. I don't know. You know, but it's what appeals to you.
Yeah, 100%. And that's so true. And I personally think Fear No Evil is going to appeal to everybody. And one of the things I love about this album is that, isn't it the first time ever that you have had 100% complete creative control from beginning to end?
Dude, I gotta tell you, man, there's some, you know, I remember standing in the studio, listening to the mix, going, wow, this sounds awesome. And then I get the CD and I go, what happened? The CD sucks. You know, it doesn't suck, but like, this sounds like half of what I heard in the studio. It's like, well, the mastering. Oh, I didn't know about the mastering. You know, the engineer can, So the whole reason I started producing is because, man, all along the way, we've had producers who are getting paid by the record company. They're not working for you. They're working for the record company.
Mm-hmm.
So who is going to advocate for the artist? It's like, well, and eventually along the way, in my personal experience, and there are great producers out there. I aspire to be a great producer by all you have to do to be a good producer is just listen to the artist, advocate for the artist, and try to help them achieve their vision of their sound.
Yeah, agreed. 100%.
And I've made every mistake in the book that you can make in recording, and I've done enough recordings that this record, this Fear No Evil album, is by far and away the best record I've ever done. Far none. Just it's wonderful.
And what I love about that is because it's completely you, and I think that's where it should be. I think the artist should determine the art, and the business people determine the business, and keep that separate.
Yes.
And,
Thank you.
And so on that note, let's tell everybody where they can connect to you guys on socials, on the web, and
Sure.
go check out Fear No Evil and everything else you have to offer.
Well, being in the grandpa crowd, at the dad rock crowd. So we're on Facebook a lot. I think we have a TikTok. I'm not sure if we're using it. I know I have a social media guy who's connecting me more to Instagram, and we've been talking about TikTok and trying to get into some of the younger, hipper, more up-to-date platforms. But so we have a Whitecross page on Facebook, and we have a fan page. They're Whitecross Warriors. We also have a website, whitecrossband.com. When we were young, it was whitecross.com, but we were young and dumb and didn't know what we were doing, and we failed to pay the hosting fee, and so we lost it. That was like 20 years ago, probably. But so now we are whitecrossband.com. Our record is available on Dark Star Records, and they have a website, darkstarrecords.com, to spell it out the way it sounds. And and then we're also on Amazon. We're on iTunes. We're on the streaming services. We're on Spotify. So it'd be nice in the old days, they had brick and mortar record stores.
I know, right?
You go to Music Go Round and you could get a copy of the album. It was easy.
And you didn't even know what the music was. You just looked at the album cover.
Yeah.
Like that. And, you bought the album because it looked cool.
So many people have said that they love our album cover design. And it's like, we do have a great graphic artist. And this is the same guy who did our cover picture there, and he also designs our t-shirts and our merch and stuff. So I'm very happy about that. But so the music is classic Whitesnake, Scorpions, Van Halen, that era. Unashamed, very loud, very proud. Crank it in your stereo, turn it up to 10, and kick out the jams.
There it is.
Yeah.
And it does jam, so I suggest everybody check it out. And I want to give some final words that I believe are actually your words on what the future plans are for the band. So I want everybody to know that your message is continue to love God, love people, love the band, love the gigs, love to shred until they lay you down in the ground in a guitar-shaped casket.
Amen.
You heard it there. Thanks, brother, for giving us such great music and great message, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thank you so much, Dean. I love it.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.